Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Leslie Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Leslie as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions. Welcome to Women We Should Know.
Welcome back to Women We Should Know, the podcast where we consistently bring you the voices, the audacity, the resilience, and the innovation of women who are doing dynamic things, women who have done dynamic things, women who do not color inside the lines and who refuse to get into boxes created by someone else. These are women who on the daily basis are challenging the status quo, which I say is one of the greatest gifts we can receive, to have someone challenge our status quo. Today we have an extraordinary woman with us. Esther Kuznetz started in the financial industry as a secretary on Wall Street in the 1980s. She moved to Sarasota, Florida in 1991 and joined a small independent firm where she was reintroduced to the financial industry and truly found her calling. After 13 years at that firm, it was time to go out on her own and work with clients her way. Esther joined a larger firm in 2008, but after 6 years, she decided that being an independent advisor was far more her style, and she started Star Financial Solutions. Esther has a passion for working with and empowering women. She's our kind of woman now, and she helps them take control of their financial future so they can focus on what really matters and have confidence regarding their finances and their retirement income. We've been talking, women, for a while now about how we must have our own retirement income, be dependent on no one. Esther can be seen twice a month on the Suncoast View, where she educates viewers on investing, financial planning, I learned how to speak yesterday, planning, and other related topics. Esther, it is a delight to have you with us today.
It is wonderful to be here and join you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You are most welcome. I have a tradition. I always like to start by asking my guests, what has already inspired you today?
Today.
Today.
Wow. Today, what's inspired me, I live in sunny Sarasota, and waking up and seeing the sunrise over the lake I live on, I don't know what's more inspirational than just the beauty of that and just a beautiful day down here in Sarasota.
That's wonderful. I'm of the belief that we must look every morning for something to inspire us, and it will impact the rest of our day. So
Absolutely.
you have chosen a spot where you have built-in inspiration.
Yes, absolutely.
Congratulations. I am fascinated with your story.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, listeners. Esther went from being homeless, a homeless hippie. I understand that. I wasn't homeless, but I was a hippie and I was all over the place. To owning her own financial firm. Talk to us about this. How do you get from being a homeless hippie to owning a financial firm and appearing on NBC to educate women about finance twice a month?
Well, it takes a while. So I was homeless at 19, and here I am at almost 60. So it took that long. But yeah, as a kid, my whole life wasn't great, to say the least. I spent a lot of time bouncing around to friends' houses and my grandparents' house, and
Yep.
doing a lot of that kind of thing, staying away from my family. Um, I
Story that many of us know from
yeah,
our generation at any rate.
yeah, and so I had my own apartment when I was in high school, basically, and begged to be to graduate early, and I did. I graduated with honors actually early, and one day I came home to my apartment, and my roommate had left, and I took all my money and everything I owned, and so that was it. And so a friend of mine, yeah, after hanging out, living on a bench for just a couple days, thank goodness, my friend said, "Well, you know what? There's a party up in Woodstock if you want to go." And I was like, "Sure." So I did, and I actually ended up making tie dyes with Not Fade Away Tie Dye Company in Woodstock for a little while. And yeah, I was 19 and had the world around me, and I was followed the Grateful Dead, and found family there, and actually learned about the economy and economics and the parking lot of Grateful Dead shows, which there's been a lot of research on that, believe it or not. Then I decided I couldn't really make a living forever doing that, which actually wasn't true because my friends signed contract to make all the shirts for the Grateful Dead and a bunch of other bands. But I went and, signed up with a temp agency and started working as a secretary on Wall Street. So that was that whole.
Goldman Sachs, I believe.
Yes, I was a temp at Goldman Sachs in the real estate mergers department way back then. And there was one woman, and she was tough, and I was working for her. And back then in the early 80s, there were not a whole lot of women in their own offices. She was amazing. So that was how I started.
How did she inspire you?
Um
Because most of our inspirations come from kind people.
yeah, and she took the time, she taught me a lot. Just watching how she did business and how, she had to be tougher than the men because she had to prove herself every single second of every single minute of every day.
That's right.
Yet she still had that kind heart that mattered,
Sure.
and that reached out. And so I had never seen that kind of grit, yet that kind of kindness before in one person. And she really was truly an amazing, amazing person. And she also was there to lift me and the other women up rather than knock them down, which is what everybody else was doing back then.
Fine. That's right.
So
She was fortunate.
very inspirational.
I'm so thrilled for you. So you worked for these other firms before you went out on your own. Now, you told me some appalling stories about how and why it was given to you as an edict, let us call it, that you could not focus on women. Now, let us have that conversation so that women can understand how the men in a majority of these financial firms are viewing them.
Yeah. Well, first of all, there aren't a whole lot of women that are financial advisors. The last survey I read was only very recently, and it was 16% of all registered financial advisors are women. And that was in the last year or so. When I got registered in 1996, it was like 5%. So we've gotten better. Yay.
Yeah,
But
and there's still room to grow.
oh, you have no idea. Yet I think it's like almost 90% of the checkbooks in this country are run by women. They do
That's right.
household finances. There's a lot more single women that make their own money, that run their own money. And the numbers are higher than men, yet we are not understood. We are not taken seriously. Yeah, I was told that in a larger firm that I was not even allowed to focus on women. This was not that long ago, 2008. And you were supposed to say, what group of people are you going to focus on to be your clients? Business owners or this or that. And I said, women. Now, just the fact that I would say women that would be a focus. They tend to forget that half of the people in this country are women.
Actually, it's 54%.
There you go. Yet all of a sudden, that's considered a specialty,
Right.
right? They don't consider men a specialty, by the way. But I was no. So yeah,
And this speaks to something, Esther. It's not just that they don't understand women, but it sounds to me that, like you're saying, they don't even want to attempt to understand women.
they, th- so let me backpedal a little bit.
Sure.
When I joined as an advisor, the first firm, which was a very small independent firm, and the person that owned the firm, the first thing he did when I got registered was pretty much give me all his female clients. And he told me, I can't deal with these women. They only want their hands held. They don't take any risk. I can't relate to them. And I was like, okay, no problem. Well, some of those women, the last female client that I got from him passed away last year, and they've been my clients ever since. Um, so I didn't see it that way. Then I went to the larger firm. And when I said that, they were like, you cannot focus on women. They will burn your time. All you'll do is handhold. They won't take any risk. You're never going to make numbers, all of this. And I said, oh, okay, well then I guess I'll focus on bikers. And I didn't tell women bikers. I was running a women's motorcycle club at the time. So that being said, nothing had changed. And then you go to these big conferences. And so I went one of many, and the breakout was selling to women. So me being the wallflower that I am, I go in there and yes, you're laughing. So I go in there and I say, well, your first mistake is you never sell to women. Women hate to be sold to. You work with women. And the guy kind of went like this. And I thought when the dogs do that, and they go, oh, yeah, I did that. Like, what do you mean working with? Isn't that the same? And I was like, oh, no, it's very, very different. And you're not going to get it because, the industry still teaches selling. You sell to men and you work with women. And this is something that I've come to understand out of my many, many, many years of doing this. We think differently. We see money differently. The old adage that so many told me women won't take risks is nonsense. Not only do we take risks, but we take risks better.
How so?
Huh?
How so?
Well, this is the thing. Women want to get it. Women.
That's right.
So what I educate, most of what I do is translation and education. That's it. To me, that's not so difficult. And the way I see it, it's pretty obvious. Like, this is your money. It's the most important thing in your world and will be, all of that, except for maybe, your kids and your health. But being able to have and take care of your kids and your health, you need the money.
Right.
And so women want to get it. So it's education. Yes. They come in and tell me, I watched CNBC last night and I didn't understand a word they said. So I was like, oh, what were they talking about? So there's the translation. They're like, oh, get that. So once women understand the risks they're taking, they will take better risk. I've never had a female client, call me from a bar and ask me to buy 100 shares of something. I've had 3 men do that. That will, it just doesn't happen with my
Intoxicated or just from a bar?
Yeah. And then the next day, I said, did I talk to you last night? I was like, don't ever do that again. We're done. This was a long time ago when I was doing that kind of business, and I don't anymore. I do, basically, just management and that kind of thing. But, it's a very different mindset. I mean, they've done all kinds of research where women like to sit at a table and look at each other when we eat or
Yes.
Get together. Men like to sit at a bar, look at the TV and talk to each other without looking at each other. So we have different communications, preferences than men do. We look at money differently. With men in this industry, the advisors and the clients, a lot of times it's a race. They want to have the best performance and have the best stock picks. For the women, they just want to live a really good life and know that they're not going to be living in a gutter when they turn 80. And they're going to be able to take vacations and leave money for their kids and, do the kind of things that are important to us, even leave money to charities, which men don't do as much.
No,
So women are much more charitable, that I've found than my male clients are. Not that my male clients won't give to charity, but not as much.
right. I recently read something in Forbes that was talking about the fact that women shop, men buy.
Yeah.
That was the name of the article. And it went on to, on the surface, I thought, I started to bristle. But as they explained it, it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Women want to understand what they're buying. And then if it's the right thing for them, they are quicker to truly invest
Right.
instead of just buying.
Absolutely. And they'll ask a lot more questions, but once they pull that trigger and buy whatever it is, they're going to be a lot more happy with it most of the time. We also share more.
Yes.
So, very early on, somehow I was getting more referrals than anyone in the office. And everyone said, how come you get more referrals than everyone else? And I said, well, because most of my clients are women and women talk and women share and they share me. And the other advisors weren't getting what I was getting, and they said, how do you do that? I just talk. And I was talking to women's groups and I was getting out there and, they weren't doing as well with the men in the men's groups.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a woman the other day who I do not know. I know her now, but she started speaking to me at the grocery store and just out of the blue, she said, I have to tell every woman I know, I just changed health insurance. And she gave me this whole story about why and all the additional benefits. Now, I went back to my office and made a phone call,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's how women operate. We want
Right.
to support each other.
Yes. And lift each other up, not tear each other down. And it's not a race. She wasn't telling you, well, my insurance is better than anything you could possibly have because I have all of this. It was, listen, figuring out insurance is really, really difficult and confusing, but look what I found out about. You might want to check it out too.
That's right. Yeah, it's not that competitive edge.
Right.
Not what. There's no one-upmanship. No, it's like, oh, let me embrace ours with you and tell you about this. You may or may not like it, but I'm going to tell you anyway because it's good for me. Maybe it's good for you.
Right. And the women advisors, this is the other thing I learned early on after getting registered. So I would go to these conferences, and this one conference was like 250 advisors. 5 of us were women. Now, again, this was back in 1996, 97. So, and it wasn't that the company was, male, just looking to invite men. There just weren't that many women that they could invite. So we were there and, again, we'd all sit at the table at dinner and the men would talk about the best trades and how much money they're making and all this stuff. We were talking about our clients. We were sharing things we were doing with our clients, what was working. I had a client that was in the circus. I live in Sarasota. So that was like something we talked about, all these different things. And it was like a totally different conversation. And, I was still in my early 30s back then. And so to me, this was a huge learning experience about how different we actually are. And so, of course, we're going to work differently with our clients. We're going to see things a lot differently. And for some reason, most women, not all, but most women are more comfortable with a female advisor.
Sure. What do you observe? What have you learned over your many years of working with women is our one biggest sticking point, the place where women trip themselves regularly in regard to finance?
Yeah. I'm going to say 2 things. First of all, it's trust. They trust too much. And second is they're afraid of their money. And again, not everybody, but many, many. So
Majority, that's statistically proven.
yeah, and so it makes me crazy because I want my clients to know what they have. And I will tell you, I don't know if it's half or most, but it's quite a big number of my clients don't even look at their statements, don't have no idea how much money they have. They don't, and I get the calls, how much money do I have? It's like, you know, you get a state. I make sure that the statements are mailed to them. I don't even set up their accounts to get e-delivery for their statements. I make sure they're mailed to them, but I can't force them to open the envelope. And the answer always is, well, I trust you. I know you're doing a great job, so I don't have to worry. And I'm going, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. But I want you to know what you have. You don't need to know everything that's in the portfolio, but you have to have some kind of an idea because it makes you stronger. It makes you more confident that you can do maybe even more than you're doing because you can afford it where you didn't even think you could. So that's, I think, the main, don't be afraid of your money. Find somebody that you can work with and then allow them to help you and to work with you. Listen to them. It's not over your head. It's not more than you can understand, but it is important. It really is important.
Mm. I was speaking to you, just mentioned something that brings to mind that I was speaking with another female financial advisor recently, and she was talking about the fact that she has to cajole her female clients to take vacations, take
Yeah.
trips,
Oh, yeah.
buy that extra wardrobe item because they are
Yeah.
so afraid of running out, even though they have ample.
Plenty. Yeah. That a lot of times. And I have clients literally millions of dollars and they're still going coach on, 20-hour plane trips. I'm like, go first class. You can afford it. This money is there for you to be more comfortable. You spent your whole life saving all this money. What are you going to do with it? Your kids don't need it. Yeah, I know you want to leave to your grandkids, and that's great. And you will, no matter what. But, you know, this money should make your life more comfortable. Well, we don't need it. No, you don't need it. But let me tell you, it would really be a lot more, you'd appreciate it once you tried it. And, again, go buy that other dress. Go, splurge a little bit. You don't have to go to the consignment shop anymore. You got $3 million. That kind of thing.
Right. And once you fly first class, you'll understand why I told you to fly first class.
Absolutely. And a couple have come back and said, you know what? Yeah, you were right. I don't want that anymore. You sure I can afford it? Yeah, I'm really sure you can afford it. Don't worry about it.
What would you say, again, the flip side of that, with your multiple years of experience? Where do women truly excel?
In all of those things that we've mentioned, I think, I think that the fact that we do share, we do talk, we do look for each other to help, we do ask for directions.
That sums it up, doesn't it? We don't mind stopping at the gas station and asking
Yeah.
directions.
Can you help
Right.
me? And
Yes.
and when, more times than not, when I get a client that comes to me, or even a potential client that they're not my client yet, and I tell them this is what you need to do, more times than not, they're going to do that, or take that into consideration and do it. Where the male clients, a lot of times they know better than I do and they don't. And, I'm fighting the battle now with a couple of them. It's like, I need to get more conservative. And they're like, yeah, no, things are going really good. I'm like, yeah, but they're not going to forever, and so it's this constant fight. And when it doesn't, two things are going to happen. You're going to say, I wish I'd listened to you. And then you're going to say, you know, I lost all this money. Now what do we do? you know, so it's like, well, maybe next time you'll do what I think we should do.
Right. 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 For all of our female listeners who are tuning in today, because we've been on this pattern of bringing financial advice to our listeners now for several months, because I find it so important. What are 3 key action points places where they can start, places where they can begin to develop a level of confidence in their competence?
Yeah. So, number one, first and foremost, and I tell this to everyone, get your own financial advisor that you can talk to. If you're married and you're not really comfortable with your husband's advisor or the advisor that you're using together, then get your money or a piece of the joint money and find your own advisor that you can talk to. That's very important. More important than anything, I think, because you have to be able to ask those questions and feel comfortable in doing that. Um, Number two, open the statement, open the envelope, know how much money you have, understand that, what you understand. Open this. I mean, it seems really easy, but I've had people walk in here with literal garbage bags full of envelopes for years of statements that they wouldn't open the envelope. So, and it's just envelopes. So, yeah, open the envelope, know what you have. And the other really important thing is you need to be empowered with your money. And that means understanding stuff. Ask the questions. If you have a financial advisor that you are afraid to ask the question to, get another one. If you don't have a financial advisor and you're trying to do it on your own by reading books and watching CNBC, get your own financial advisor. It is so important that you find that person that you can connect with and you can talk to and ask the questions comfortably, and that they're going to give you honest, down to earth answers, whether you want to hear it or not. And that, I think, is the most powerful thing that you can take away from anything I've said today.
Absolutely. And I know you say, and this is so, so true in absolutely every area of life, that more learning happens in life than in school.
Oh, yeah.
So opening those statements, having those interviews with financial planners, that's where the learning how to comes from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just being comfortable. I mean, I hear all the time, I was with my husband's advisor, but we've used him forever, but I don't feel comfortable asking questions to him, or he's always either looking up here or looking down here, and
Oh, that.
at the time, or even worse, I sit in that office and I'm invisible. So why should I even go?
Yes. Now, this brings to mind a point of data. I am a data geek. I've told you this. A point of data that I encountered not too long ago that was just appalling to me. The number one cause for divorce is not infidelity, but financial adultery.
Yeah.
And if you are dependent only on your husband's financial advisor, aren't you setting yourself up for that more? Or aren't you creating a level of exposure to the potential?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I know women that have turned their IRAs over to have their husband's person run them, and they haven't even looked at statements. And then all of a sudden things turn the other way and they have no idea how much money they have. And then they find out that money's been coming out of there and that the stuff they've been signing has not been what they thought because they didn't read it. They didn't look. And now they have.
Right. And that
Yeah.
leads to the other part of the article I was reading, which spoke to the extraordinary percentage of identity theft that occurs between husband and wife. They get to ready to get a divorce, and the wife finds out her name is on all the debt but none of the assets.
I've seen that too. Yeah. Yeah. Wake up, people. I don't know. Women are very trusting. And we love that about each other, but it also gets us into some trouble. And you really need to have your eyes open. And again, look at those statements. You need to just look at them. Just know what's on that, even just the first page. How much money is in there? How much money was in there the month before? Is it going up? Is it going down? Then you can call your advisor and ask why. But you don't want to know 3 years down the road that everything's been squandered.
No, no. I always say that it's part of the adulting process that was not taught to us in schools or even in societal settings.
Right. Right. And what was taught to us was our fathers took care of all the financial stuff. And so what we were taught was they know more than we do, or they can handle it better than us, or whatever. And, what we didn't know was that our mothers might not have been real happy in the marriages and couldn't leave because they didn't have anything of their own. This was back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, when we were growing up, we didn't see that part. And now I'm here to tell you, women have their own money. Take control of your own money and your own destiny. I'm not saying don't be married, don't put things in joint name. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying open your eyes and know what's there and know what you have. And that's really important. Education is power.
Claim a piece of your own pie. You helped make that pie. Claim a piece of your own pie.
Correct. Absolutely.
This is all brilliant counseling and information, Esther. Thank you. And for the listeners out there, now I'm going to do for you what I always do for you. I am going to put Esther's contact information, her website, everything I can wrestle out of her to give to you. I'm going to put it on her program notes. So when you finish jogging, when you finish driving, and you can sit down and actually view the podcast instead of just listening to it, you'll be able to go to the program notes and get all that information and get in touch with her directly. And when you do that, please subscribe, like, and share. I'm on my sharing bandwagon, women. What one woman? Now, you may know 10, but I'm just going to ask you to send to one. What one woman do you know who you suspect could truly and deeply benefit from what Esther has been sharing today? Be a good sister and send it to her. Now, it's not your obligation to make sure she watches it, just like it's not Esther's obligation to make sure they open their statements. But at least send it. Give her an opportunity. And last but certainly not least, comment. We are committed at Women We Should Know to expand important conversations between women. So comment. If you leave a comment for Esther, she will receive it. If you leave a comment for us, we will respond to you. So it's easy. Subscribe, one click, like, one click, share, one email address, and a little bitty comment. You can do this. Esther, as we get ready to close out, what are the, let's say, 3 most important questions women should be asking when they are interviewing potential financial planners for themselves?
Well, our financial advisors, like I am, you want them to be registered because there's oversight. There's so many that aren't. You want them FINRA registered. That means a Series 7.
Say that again. What registered?
FINRA registered.
Spell that for our listeners.
FINRA.
Okay.
Don't ask me to tell you what those
No.
But basically, there's oversight. There's so many people calling themselves financial advisors. They may just be selling insurance. They may just be selling whatever. If you're FINRA registered, you have some background, you've taken tests, you have to do continuing education. Make sure they are registered. Do broker check. Look them up on brokercheck.org. And make sure you can talk to them, that you feel comfortable with them. That whatever question you want to ask them, you don't feel uncomfortable. Like, to me, there's not a stupid question out there. So you're not born knowing this stuff. And for somebody that barely made it out of high school and is self-taught and all of this, with my Wall Street days way back when, I get it. And don't feel like you can't ask a question. It's really important. But, look them up, make sure that they are FINRA registered, that they can work with you on many different levels, that they can offer you many different types of investments, not just annuities or not just insurance, that they can do what's best for you. And I think that's like the most important thing you can do.
Great. And in this day of Zoom, that is one of the things that COVID gave us. It really drove us to these virtual meetings. I am guessing, tell me if I'm wrong, that although you were in Sarasota, that you can work with women and consult with women around the country.
Oh, and I'm licensed pretty much in all the states, and whatever states I'm not licensed in, it literally takes 5 minutes to get licensed there. So yeah, I can work with anyone. We can do Zoom, we can do phones, whatever is the best. I have clients everywhere.
Okay. Thank you, Esther. This has been incredibly helpful. I know that my listeners have benefited, and thank you so much for being with us today.
And thank you for having me. This was so nice.
Oh, wonderful. You are welcome. Okay, listeners, another fabulous conversation. Now, I know that each one of you got some really golden nuggets today, right? Now, for those of you who are new, I'm going to tell you what we do with our nuggets. We write them down, each one on a different piece of paper. And then we just toss them somewhere on our messy desk, on our bar, wherever. And then in a week or two, we happen to come across them again when we're stacking those bills or cleaning that mess. And then we get to sit there for a minute and say, now, why did I write this down? Why was this important to me? These are little gifts that you give to your future self. This is how we play with our nuggets from Women We Should Know. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I look forward to seeing you at our next episode. Be sure and subscribe so that you'll know who the next guest is going to be. And as you go through the rest of your day, please remember, you are stronger and wiser than you know.